former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski, also Kellyanne Conway, a senior advisor to the Trump campaign, Guy Cecil of the pro-Clinton super PAC Priorities USA, Bruce LeVell of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump, and CNN political contributor Van Jones, and also CNN political commentator Anna Navarro. And as you can see at home, everyone, I have my hands full. So, Bruce, I want to go with you, since you're involved directly with the Trump campaign and to outreach among African Americans. To Jason's point, he's delivering the speech. He is on a national audience here on CNN and on other networks, but he's delivering this speech largely in front of an all-white audience when he's speaking mostly about African Americans.
Well, first off, Don, just a slight correction here. I don't work for the campaign. The National Diversity Coalition, which is ndctrump.com, you can look on the website, is that we're not affiliated.
Since you're working with the campaign, aren't you a surrogate? Aren't you trying to help Donald Trump?
Well, you know, we're a group of volunteers, sir. Yeah. You know, we're nationally all over. We represent every state in the United States from all different ethnic backgrounds, you know, from African Americans, Hispanic Americans in every state in the country. So we've been doing this grassroots coalition for, you know, several months since last year, and this is what surprised me when I see the polls, because there's hundreds of thousands that signed up that are part of our coalition. And if you noticed previously throughout the several months, there have been a very culturally diverse, you know, different folks from all over the coalition, from all over the country that represent Mr. Trump and have a voice, whether you're Hispanic or African American. So, you know, I have to respectfully disagree on some of the polls, because we have been out on the ground game going. A lot of us have surrogates from all over the state that speak to urban radio stations and go to a lot of the churches and all the different.
But Bruce, what about specifically this speech where he talked mostly about African Americans and he spoke about crime? He talked about the inner city. He said Hillary Clinton is bad for Democrats and Hillary Clinton bad for African Americans. What about this particular speech? Jason's point, why not deliver it in Milwaukee, which has a higher percentage of African Americans, which has had so much unrest over the last couple of days? Why not there, specifically to this particular speech and his audience?
Well, you know, with all due respect, I don't know that in terms of logistics. I do know, however, when the Trump campaign comes to town, I mean, Don, we're talking about 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people. So in terms of the venue, I don't know, you know, I can't speak for the campaign in terms of where their venue might be or what have you. I don't know, you know, Milwaukee, but I do know they try to find venues that can house 30, 40, 50,000 people, you know, and I have seen that in the past. So, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, run from the fact. But however, you know, this message, this speech that he has tonight has been played for millions and millions of people from all over the United States, from all over the world. The other thing, too, though, Don, I want to make a quick note on this, that, you know, Mr. Trump has been meeting several years with a lot of African-American pastors, a lot of Hispanic pastors, a lot of different evangelicals, a lot of faith-based leaders across the country for many years. I've been in those meetings.
Bruce, I want to talk about that, but I want to get to this speech, and I want to give my, just to be fair to the other panelists. We'll discuss that. But I want to get to Van Jones. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, the reason that he didn't go to Milwaukee is the reason he doesn't go to African-American communities in general. It's easy to sit up there and talk about a community that you're not talking to. There are some pastors he talks to, he doesn't go. I want to draw a contrast. There was unrest the night Dr. King was killed. Bobby Kennedy, who had a palpable concern for the poor and a palpable concern for people of color and had a track record of being there, went right into the heart of Gary, Indiana, and spoke to those people in a moment of grief and brought peace and calm. If Donald Trump, with that message, he's at 1% of black support right now, he might be 0% tonight, because that message tonight was so shocking in its divisiveness, trying to pit blacks against Latinos, which is the worst thing that you can do, acting as if the only reason that we have problems in our community is because of Democrats and not because we have not, both parties have failed to address these underlying concerns. I watched this speech with alarm in my heart that an American leader would walk into a situation like this with so little grace. And let me just say one more thing, because I don't know, we got a lot of people to talk here tonight. There is a way to
have to get them in, but go ahead.
There's a way to talk to African Americans about the problems that we have. We're tired of going to funerals. We're tired of crime. but we are crushed right now between street violence and some unlawful police violence. And if you care about us, you've got to talk about both sides of the problem and bring us together, not talk about one side of the problem and try and divide us against Latinos. It was a despicable speech, and that's not the way to bring us together.
Anna Navarro, he spoke about law and order, but the way he spoke about law and order and criminality and crime, it's as if African Americans commit all the crime in this country, and we know that that is not true. But that's what I got from the speech. What's your takeaway?
You know, the speech had some good lines in it. Frankly, very rich lines coming from Donald Trump. It's almost laughable to hear him at this point say that we are going to reject bigotry and hatred when he's been doing nothing but fanning the flames of bigotry, division, and hatred for this entire campaign. I think this speech was a good speech in some aspects, but here's the problem. Any well-trained parrot or parakeet can read a speech, can regurgitate a speech, can regurgitate words. It is when the man goes off script, it is when he speaks from his heart, it is when he speaks what's in his mind that we get really, really scared. He goes way off the reservation and he says things that are offensive, divisive. He does things like mock reporters. He does things like call African Americans. Look at my African American over there. He says that a Hispanic judge that was born in the United States can't do his job because of his heritage. And there is, you know, judge a man not by what he reads, judge a man by what he says when he's not reading. And
actions as well. I'm going to get Kellyanne, because Kellyanne, I would imagine you didn't get the takeaway from the speech that that some of us got when I said he made it seem as if, and I don't know if that was his intention, but as a person of color, that only people of color in this country commit crimes.
He didn't say that.
But
Nor
that's
does
what.
he think
But that's
it or,
what. That's
or
what
mean
he.
it.
I didn't hear him mention any other group but African Americans in crime.
Well, Don, I think the commentary.
Did you hear him mention
I
any
think
other
the
group?
commentary in this entire program
Wait, before
so
you
far.
hang on.
Excuse
Before
me,
you answer.
I didn't take copious
Before you
notes.
answer, did you hear him mention any other group
What I
besides
heard
African
him
Americans?
do today, what I heard him do tonight, which is incredibly important, is answer the call of all the
You
complainers
can
that
say
he
that,
never.
Kellyanne, but I want you to answer my question first, because you're saying no, and I'm telling you that is what many people received. I can show
And
you
many
many people
people
received
did
it.
not.
Did you hear him mention any other group besides African Americans when it comes to crime in this particular speech?
What I heard him say is
yes or no,
that,
Kellyanne?
I don't recall, but why are you badgering me?
I'm
and
not badgering you. I'm
but
trying to get a
are.
straight answer
are
from you, and then
badgering me.
you can go on and
allowed
answer the
3
question. You're not
people to
answering my.
criticize his
They
speech.
answered my question directly, and when they veered off course, I told them to get
You
back
didn't
on.
ask them a factual question about the speech
okay.
like that. But
so,
anyway,
but you didn't hear him say
But anyway, this is what I heard him say. I heard him talk about facts and figures. If anybody wants to dispute the facts and figures, then I'd like to hear that. She wants to talk. Hillary Clinton wants his campaign to be about tone and temperament. He's making it about facts and figures. Is it a fact or is it fantasy that in our major cities for a number of years now, decades in fact, in some of our major cities, Don, when you've had Democratic mayors and city councils, what has happened to the education system? What has happened to the poverty rates, which affects all races, by the way? What has happened to the fatherlessness? What has happened to the lack of opportunities, the crime, the street crime that Van is talking about? So Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, going down.
Tell the victims
finish,
of crime
man.
that they don't feel that it's going down.
So yes, it's going down. That's a fact. You said facts and figures. So if you got to talk about facts and figures, the fact is that crime has been going down across the country, and we do have some spots where there's a lot of pain and suffering. But Republicans should not. You've never gone to a funeral. You only bring these things up when you can beat up a Democrat. Come to the community and be with us, and we'll listen.
Man, I've been to the community plenty of times, okay? I know you want all the saying. Excuse me, I work with charter schools in this city, in Harlem, in the Bronx.
Let me just stop here, everyone. Kellyanne, we're trying to have a conversation, and we want to, yes, we want to have an honest conversation. And if you're not answering the questions, what we're trying to do is come to some consensus here about Donald Trump's speech. I asked you a very similar. Hang on, please. I asked you a very simple question. All you have to do is answer yes or no, and then go on with your point. Van is trying to make a point to you. No one is attacking you. We're just trying to get an honest and direct answer out of you. And then you go, thanks for inviting me. Okay.
I don't even feel surprised.
Okay, so then go on and answer the question.
Everybody else got to respond the way they wanted to.
I am allowing you to speak, but I am telling you
I heard about bigotry. I heard about judges.
I'm feeling animosity from you. There's no animosity. I'm just trying to get you to answer the question directly, and you're not doing that. But go on.
Just say what I want to say about the speech?
Go on, yes.
Okay, as I was saying before, if you want to talk about facts and figures, let's have a conversation. Were there any facts that he raised that were not true? Are there any figures about these democratically controlled cities where all the problems that he has identified have been on the rise? Is there anything he said about the media, consultant, donor class, rigged, corrupt system where Hillary Clinton is a card-carrying member of that, where they nominated somebody who is part of the system that doesn't benefit the little guy, doesn't benefit any of us, hurts the outsiders? Is there anything he said there that was not true? I'm telling you, if you talk about facts and figures and not just tone and temperament, the way people just want this whole campaign to be over because they want to talk about that and define it the way they want to define it.
Tone and temperament are not important at all in this campaign.
That?
No.
Did I say that?
But that's what you're insinuating.
Here's what I gathered today. No, I'm not insinuating anything.
If you say tone, if I ask you, are tone and temperament important in this campaign? You can say yes or no. You don't have to say, did I say that?
You said so they're not important.
So then just say yes, they are.
Of course they're important.
Okay, then that's
But many
that's
things,
a fair
you know what
answer.
else is important? The fact that United Healthcare said it has suffered $1 billion in losses because of Obamacare. It pulled out of 30 states. You know what else is important to people of all color? That $430 million absorbed in losses by Aetna that pulled out of 11 of 15 states. You don't think that Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, is a disaster that President Obama and Hillary Clinton own? I think that affects lots of people. Those are facts and figures. Nobody just wants to talk about them. People want to criticize Donald Trump for not reaching out to the African American community. And gives one speech, they attack him for not doing it the way they think he should do it.
I don't think anyone is attacking Donald Trump. I think we're giving a read on what people are feeling about
You missed the first 10 minutes of your show
But
then.
Don, the part of what Kellyanne is talking about is the initial
Corey,
question
please stand by. I just have to reset. It's the top of the hour. Excuse me. It's the top of the hour. This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. We're starting with Donald Trump's speech. You heard Donald Trump giving a live speech in Wisconsin just moments ago, speaking on law and order in the wake of a weekend of unrest in Milwaukee. He also made a pitch for African-American voters, saying that Democrats take them for granted, and he also took a shot at Hillary Clinton. I'm joined now by my panel here, and we're going to continue on. Go ahead, Corey.
So what I was saying is, immediately coming out of Donald Trump's speech, the question was, did he deliver this in the right community? That's the first response, not let's talk about what he did, which is outreach to African Americans, not talk about the fact that he said, look, our country is at a perilous point. We have to protect our police. Let's make sure that our communities are safe. Let's make sure people have good education.
Corey, you're here to talk about that.
Yeah, I understand, but the
Other
first
people's
point,
opinions
no,
are valid.
It's
the
not
first
an
person we
opinion.
went to was a reporter
I understand.
who brought up that point.
To question where the speech was being done, that's not objective. Look, Hillary Clinton was in Scranton, Pennsylvania with Joe Biden yesterday. No one said to her, that's not an African-American community, because Joe Biden talked about African-Americans. What's the African-American population in Scranton, Pennsylvania? I didn't see the reporters talking about that as soon as that speech was done. Where's the equity? Where's the fairness? I don't see it. That's the problem.
She wasn't giving a speech on African Americans.
But Donald Trump wasn't just giving that speech. He was also talking about security. He's talking about violence against police officers, of which, if you go and look at the facts,
what was the bulk of his speech?
80%. There's an 80% increase in gun violence against police officers this year over last year.
Corey, I'm not disagreeing with that. But what was the bulk of his speech about?
It was a broad speech. It was about charter schools. It was about homeland security domestically, which is protecting police. It was about economic safety. It was about changes in Washington D.C. and the corrupt system.
It was,
That's
but
what
he
the story
spoke
was
a lot about African Americans.
But it wasn't just about that. That's what you focused in on.
I'm not saying no one said it was just about African Americans, but he spoke a lot about it.
But does that mean he has to give a speach in Washington D.C. to say D.C. is broken and that's the only place I can give it? Of course not.
We're analyzing the speech, Corey, and everything can be analyzed. Go ahead, Van.
So Corey, I thought that the most remarkable thing about the speech, he said a lot of divisive stuff and law and order stuff in the past, but the most remarkable thing about the speech was that he did address the African American community, and he said the word African American and the African American people almost 24 times. So I don't think you can sit up here and say that this was he was not aiming this speech in some important ways at a new constituency. In general, that's a good thing. We have wanted him to reach out. He's doing that. Unfortunately, he did it in an arena that made it look somewhat laughable and with rhetoric that was very, very, I think, disrespectful. The African American community has other things going on than just crime. The only thing that he's saying about us is we're the victims of crime or we're committing crime. And I think that adds to stereotypes.
No, Van, that's not what he said, though. What he also said was the Democratic Party has taken advantage and taken for granted the African American population and has done so for multiple election cycles. And he is now reaching out to show that under a Republican administration, under a Trump administration, what that would look like is better schools, better jobs, stop illegal immigration, which disproportionately hurts African American communities. He talked all about that. Because it is true that the Democrats have taken advantage and taken for granted the African American community, and this is Donald Trump reaching out to say there is a second choice.
Corey, I think what he is trying to aim at, and which is, I think you are correct, there is a section of the black community that is frustrated that the Democrats have not delivered. he is smart enough politically to try to go after that. But in the execution of it, the way that he went about it, I thought was despicable. First of all, he tried to divide us from our Latino sisters and brothers. If you know anything about what's going on in our communities,
how did he do that? I missed that. How did he do that?
Because what he said that the undocumented community, I think he said illegal community, is in here taking jobs.
But you said Hispanic. He didn't say that. You said that.
And I'm
so
making
let's correct that. Let's correct that.
I'm going to make the assumption. I'm going to make the interpretation.
So don't try to say that he's playing Hispanic.
One at a time, please. One at a time.
Sure. Hey,
so respectfully, let's get it right.
Duly corrected. I'm going to make the assumption that most people didn't think he was talking about Canadians. Most people didn't think he was talking about Swedish models. Most people thought he was talking about Latinos. And so since that's probably let me finish. Since that's what most people heard, one of the greatest things that's happened in the country is there's been a big healing at the grassroots level between Latinos and blacks. There used to be a lot of violence, a lot of anger. And for him to go and try to rip that back open for political purposes is wrong.
Bruce, you want to respond?
I disagree with that. It's what he said in the speech. He said, Van, he said, Hillary's using, her motives to gain other people of illegal immigrants, and that does affect African American jobs, and that's true, Van. I mean, really, there's nothing, guys. I'm sorry.
Speaking of guys, Guy has not said one thing the entire time. So, Guy Cecil, go ahead. I've heard you. I've seen you reacting.
Sometimes silence is the better part of valor. I think this is probably a good example of that.
Yeah.
Look, I think context is important here. You had a Republican candidate who has brought in 1,100 workers from overseas to staff his businesses, complain about workers coming in to take African American jobs. He could have easily hired them in his workplace. You have someone lecturing us about crime. You have someone that's trying to speak about the African American community, but left out the fact that his own company was marking applications for apartments, noting which ones were African American before outright rejecting him. Yes, words are great. Whether you like the speech, you dislike the speech, the fact of the matter is that Donald Trump has had an entire career of dividing people, of attacking African Americans. Just yesterday, or a couple of days ago, he talked about how some communities in Pennsylvania were going to engage in massive voter fraud. Now, you don't have to be a genius to know which communities he was talking about. So whether it's been by inference, whether it's been intentionally dividing African Americans and Hispanics, whether it's been a career of discriminating against them, or whether it's just been outright bigoted words, the fact of the matter is Donald Trump doesn't have a grasp on temperament or tone or facts or figures, and that's why he shouldn't be president of the United States.
I want Kellyanne to get in here because I know that you're pained by some of the conversation that's going on. Go ahead, Kellyanne.
What did you want me to answer?
I
can speak the way they did? Okay, great. That's terrific. So let's contrast the last couple of days by Hillary Clinton and by Donald Trump. Yesterday he gave a very muscular foreign policy speech. He talked to the American people who feel like we've been at war against terror for 15 years, and he said, here's the problem, here are the solutions, here's my plan. You may not like it, people may not like it, but at least they can read it, they can hear it. He talked about how ISIS is on the rise, how ISIS and its predecessor groups have killed 33,000 people. And since the birth and the growth of ISIS in 2013, they've killed 80% of those 33,000 people. We've left a vacuum in Libya, in Iraq, in Syria, in Egypt that has allowed this to flourish. And he gave a speech about that. Today he followed up with another speech. So people who want to talk about his style and his this and his that don't want to give him his due. I think you just learned that tonight. People who are against him are not going to change their minds. They're going to continue to insult him, lie about him if they want. But there are people out there listening to his speeches that he's bringing the message directly to them through all the noise and through all the silence. And they will hear him because this electorate, Don, is going to want everybody to pivot from this stupid content-free cacophony into the issues that affect them.
You said that people, I didn't hear anyone insult Donald Trump tonight. What I heard was criticism. How has criticism become an insult?
You didn't hear insulting words? Okay. But then the minute somebody says something about Hillary Clinton, they're being sexist or they're being mean or they're being, they have a bad temperament, they're being intemperate. So why is there a double standard for that? Why she and her and people like Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden yesterday, the Vice President of the United States playing political pundit, He spent 95% of his speech, instead of propping her up like so many do, on Donald Trump. He did what Democrats always do. He's being asked to talk about Hillary Clinton. He talked about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's not
I was talking about in
substance.
this particular panel tonight. You said that people will continue to insult, and I thought you meant with this panel. I didn't hear anyone say anything insulting about Donald Trump.
Don, I have a question for Kellyanne. So you know,
Actually, Don, I think I will tell you something. I will take credit for insulting him, and I will take credit for insulting him because he's been insulting communities since the first day he launched this campaign when he started talking about Mexican rapists. The reason I can call Donald Trump names and I can insult him back is because I am the sister of a disabled man, and he mocked that disabled man. Because I am the friend of a POW, and he mocked that POW. Because I'm an immigrant, and he has insulted immigrants. Because I'm a Hispanic, and he has insulted Hispanics. Because I'm a woman, and he has insulted women. So, yeah, we're at the point where there's insults and name calling, but I would just say that he threw that rock first.
Van?
He's the one that has lowered the debate to the level that it's at.
Yeah, well, amen, sister.
Are we on the speech topic?
Well,
Yes,
we were responding to what Kellyanne said, but go ahead.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I do want to acknowledge Kellyanne has done great work on charter schools, and I didn't mean you in particular. You've earned your stripes, and I apologize if you thought I was taking that away from you. But all too often, Republicans only talk about what's going on in Chicago or other places as a talking point, as a soundbite to either push back on protests or push back on Democrats. And to me, that's not in the spirit of people like Jack Kemp, who used to actually go to the community as Republicans and really be a part of the community and try to help. And I'm just tired of seeing the pain that we're suffering being used for political football points by any party, and especially by someone like Donald Trump, who, as best I can tell, has never shown up, unlike you, has never shown up in these communities when it was on the hard days. But he's happy to go to a white community, and that was a part of the optics here, and talk about us and not talk to us.
Well, I appreciate that, Van.
Van, I want to ask you. Let
Kellyanne respond to you. He was speaking directly to Kellyanne,
okay.
Anna, and then I'll let you go.
No. But I also think it's really unfair to judge somebody who's running for office for the first time and just presume they've never gone to these communities. I mean, he employs thousands and thousands and thousands of people from all walks of life, from many different countries, from all races, both genders, obviously. And I think that we should take a step back and look at the full measure of the man, the charity work he's done, the donations he's made, the people he's helped over time. It's just difficult when somebody doesn't have a political resume to necessarily look at all the speeches they've given, the promises they made. I mean, Van, lady, gentlemen, I think the question is very fair to ask. Since Hillary Clinton has been in public office for decades, and none of us can deny some of these very haunting facts, what is she going to do that's so different? Why should some of these communities have hope? Why shouldn't they just at least listen to Donald Trump's speech tonight and entertain it? And by the way, I assume that everybody has TVs like we do. It doesn't matter who the audience was. Only I hope he does go to other audiences. I would encourage him to continue to deliver
that was one of the first things that one of the panelists, I think it was Van, that we were trying to make, and the panelists were trying to make, is if you're going to deliver a message, you should make sure that message, people receive that message instead of it bouncing off.
So could you look at it as a good start?
But you took umbrage to it, Corey took umbrage to it, and there were probably people who took umbrage to it when I think the panelists were simply trying to have a conversation and have you and Trump supporters understand that optics do matter.
They do.
The words
So
do
does
matter.
substance.
Go ahead.
They
So
do
does
matter, but the
substance.
substance matters.
Absolutely. We're not saying the
That is
substance
very
does not
important.
matter, but go ahead,
But
Corey.
look, this was a national speech. This was to a national audience. This wasn't to the audience in that room. You can't put a room
Corey.
big enough. And so what you do is, look, you know what, Donald Trump has had multiple meetings at Trump Tower with African-American leaders from across the country. You know, and if you look at who spoke
But isn't
at
that
his
part of the
convention-
problem that those meetings are at Trump Tower? They're not in
Really?
African-American communities. I'm sure you saw the New York Times stories about him going into Detroit
Pastor
and
Darrell
other
Scott,
areas. and
Pastor
not
Mark Burns, Bruce LeVell.
going into Trump Tower.
How many times has Hillary Clinton done that and pandered, literally pandered to the African-American community and said, yes, I've got hot sauce in my pocket?
Wait,
Wasn't
no,
that a comment that she made?
no,
It was
no,
egregious.
no,
It was egregious.
no,
Donald Trump
that's-
didn't pander to anybody. You know what he did
That's a good
tonight?
question for one of the
You know what he did
Democrats on
tonight?
the-
You know what he did tonight?
on the panel.
He gave a very specific message. He said, I want to help. I want to show that there is a difference to the Democrats who have taken you for granted, African-American population, and this speech is much broader than that. It's an initial foray to outreach.
Van?
Corey, you know, one of the ironies here is that I was one of the people who, And when you were out there working for Donald Trump, back in September, back in October, back in November, December, I was saying the African American community could be open to a Donald Trump message. I was, and I got a lot of grief from it, but I said that there have been failures on the parts of Democrats. There is an opening there for someone to come with a new message. The milk curdled in the black community because of the way he talked about Muslims, the way he talked about Latinos, the way he talked about disabled people, the whole list that Anna just went through curdled the milk. African Americans are very sensitive to people who come across in a bigoted way or who speak in generalities about groups. And we look and say, well, if you talk bad about them and you talk bad about them, you're going to talk bad about me. And the great tragedy for both parties is that Donald Trump took a bad situation, too many African Americans in one party, which is bad for both parties, and made it worse because of his conduct. Now, and then tonight he had a chance to fix it.
I disagree.
Yeah, but Van, here's the thing.
And you made it worse.
Here's the thing. You've had an African-American president who's had the opportunity to go and do something very special for the last 8 years, which is to take African Americans who have a disproportionately high rate of unemployment in their communities and do something for them. Empowerment zones, help people back to work, and he hasn't done it. The African American population today is not better off than they were 8 years ago.
We never going to get to a commercial break tonight.
They're not better off today 8 years ago because if they were.
Guy, go ahead, Guy.
I think if Corey thinks that the way that Donald Trump is going to appeal to the African American communities by attacking President Obama and attacking Obamacare, it reflects a good reason why he's sitting on this panel and not in Trump Tower right now. It's just a fundamental misunderstanding of the electorate and talking about hot sauce on a panel, attacking Hillary Clinton's
your
health.
opponent has an
It's not really
11%
going to be one
Corey,
way
just
that
stand
you're
by
going
for
to
me.
be able to accomplish
Kellyanne, just stand by.
that. It's just
Everyone,
not.
I need to get to a break. We're going to continue this on the other side of this break. We'll be right back.